Echo 5, do you copy? Echo 5.
Echo 2, good morning. Nice of you to drop by.
Feeling alright, sir? Thought we lost you.
Right now, I feel like I could take on this whole podcast myself.
I know what you mean. Ready to send that transmission to Echo Base?
Yes, sir. R10, patch through.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. We are going to be doing a special podcast on this one, and it's the 45th anniversary of Star Wars. So we're going to be interviewing a series of guests, and here is Matt. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. What part of the world do you consider your base?
Sorry, repeat. What's the question again? What part of the world I consider my what?
Your base or home?
Oh, okay. Just from North America. Just casual. I'd say. Not really much to I wouldn't say anything like unique. I'd say about me per se. Of course, I'm on here because I'm a major Star Wars fan. Have been my whole life. Have a strong interest in overall just filmmaking, that type of stuff, really.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the questions. So what was the first Star Wars film you saw?
I believe the first one I ever saw was actually A New Hope, on the VHS, the old VHS I used to have growing up.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents actually had like the VHS version of it, and they had it for years and years because I was born in the 2000s. So of course I
Okay, was
wasn't
this
around.
like I'm sorry, was this like the original one or like the special editions?
It may have actually been maybe the original ones. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure whatever happened to the VHS. It's been years since I've watched like that edition, but ever since then, I have actually I have like a copy of the original trilogy of the 2008, I believe, special editions. So I did. So those ones are ones without the final ones on from 2011, from the final like editions Lucas added into those.
So what drew you into Star Wars?
Well, being the kid I was, just being that young, it's been in my life for as long as I can remember. I'm really at the time, just being that age, it was of course like the science fiction aspect, the spaceships, the blasters and the lightsabers, of course. Those were always just so mesmerizing as a kid. I always remember, going to Walmart or any store in particular, just buying, Anakin's lightsaber, having duels with my family members. They would buy lightsabers to duel with me whenever I'd go visit them. That's the type of thing. Watching all, the type of, fun little parody video fan films people would make during that era in Star Wars. And just, so at the time, it was pretty basic of what drew me in. But now as I get older, um, I now see it in a much more different light, I would say, especially in my field of study being film. I see it a lot through the lens of, what Lucas had intended in terms of like the themes and the messages he implanted into those, the deep research he would go into in order to build this universe, and how it's a lot more deeper than just, spaceships and lightsabers and all that. It's a lot more, it's deeper into stuff, like Greek and Roman mythology, the deeper meanings, of, like not letting darkness consume who you are, not letting the past, define you, and the chance of redemption, and how he just views it overall as more of a soap opera in that aspect. His words, for just FYI. But so as I get older, I'm always still that inner child will always be fascinated by those, aspects of, lightsabers and so forth. But it's also fascinating that the older you get, just any fan in general, when you start to see those deeper things, it really has a different impact on you, and just makes the overall world of Star Wars much more interesting.
Oh, absolutely agree. Um, all right, very cool. So, who's your favorite character?
Now, this is where I get really deep into, Star Wars lore, because now I've gotten more into the expanded universe era of Star Wars, the books and the games that, came out under Lucas.
Okay,
So
so Legends.
yeah, I just usually you say expanded universe, but in
Yeah,
same topic.
yeah.
But my favorite characters definitely lie a lot more in there. I still love, Luke, Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Vader. Those are the characters that pretty much were like the roots of Star Wars, and there'd be no Star Wars without those characters. They are like the founding fathers per se, of Star Wars. But as years went on, people and different authors, and creators were able to add more depth and detail and history and lore and just overall build upon the universe of Star Wars. And in that time frame, they've created a lot new and introduced a lot new characters. So
Mhm.
when asking about my favorite character, it's definitely um, I'm definitely like tie. It's a tie definitely between characters like Revan, Star Killer, Vader's apprentice, Darth Malgus, Darth Nihilus, Vitiate, and of course some of the classics like Vader, Luke. There's really a lot of
Mhm.
ties between those characters, but I definitely do find the expanded universe characters very fascinating as well, and I tend to study them a lot more.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, Cal Katarn is always one that's stood out to me post Return of the Jedi, and
Kyle
Revan's
Katarn.
definitely yeah Cal Katarn from the Dark Forces series.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
actually just started playing the Jedi Academy games, and I'm now just starting to. I've always known who he was and like his like traits and so forth, but now I'm able to see it play out.
yeah. I'd actually recommend start with Dark Forces 2 before you jump into like Outcast and Academy. Pretty
Okay.
cool. Um, yeah, that's really cool. I know a lot of fans like really big into like the expanded universe, and I had to mention Legends just for a lot of the newer fans, so they know what we're jumping into. Um, so let's jump into favorite movie.
Ooh, see, yeah, I would honestly say in terms this question is a very unique, like it has a very unique answer from me in terms of, because as I've said before, I'm very much into filmmaking, so I look at the construction of a film, the pacing, the writing, and so forth. In terms of like my favorite film, like my just personal favorite on a personal level, I would say it's Return of the Jedi. Of
Okay.
course, some of the early stuff, in my personal opinion, is a little, awkward or maybe a little off at times. It's not an overall mess, but it is like a head scratcher at times. But that ending sequence with the Battle of Endor, the battle on the Death Star with Luke and Vader, Vader's redemption, him fulfilling the prophecy, defeating the Emperor once and for all. Just having it overall, that overall like final third act, having it be a beautiful conclusion to the story,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it's just it really hits home for me, and really I'm not ashamed to admit it makes me tear up, and I get emotional about it. I'm not afraid to admit it makes me cry, and don't I'm not ashamed of that whatsoever, because I find it to be a very beautiful ending and conclusion to the Skywalker story. So in retrospect, so that is my personal favorite. uh, in terms of like the best one that was made is definitely Empire Strikes Back, in terms of just execution, the pacing, the plot, or just writing in general, that type of stuff. But my personal favorite has to be Return of the Jedi.
Perfect. Um, so we'll jump into a couple more questions. We got favorite Clone Wars arc.
For Clone Wars arc,
Yeah,
I actually
I know
have
that
been
one's gonna be a little tough.
Yeah, I actually have been thinking about this one over the past week or so. I've been going back and rewatching clips of the Clone Wars on YouTube and so forth. I plan to buy, the box set at some point of the seasons that I can get, because of course some of them they're just go to straight streaming. But I have been reflecting recently over the Clone Wars show and just overall arcs, and I would say I know one of them for sure, like at the top, will be the Ahsoka arc when she was framed, when she was framed for the Jedi Temple, the attack on the Jedi Temple and so forth by Barriss. Spoilers for anyone out there. Of course, then there was the Darth Maul arc when he took over Mandalore, or when he joined Death Watch. I believe that was season 5, and then
Yeah.
that one concluded with Palpatine just coming in, wrecking everyone there. That sequence is just amazing.
I was gonna
And
say that's probably one of the most underrated lightsaber battles.
oh, absolutely, and it's honestly one of the few times we ever see Sidious go into action, because it's a
Sure.
common Star Wars fact how he personally hates using lightsabers, feeling that those weapons are beneath him, that his powers in the dark side are superior, and that he has no need for a lightsaber. So he just sees them as like children's toys and so forth. So, and there's so many ways to analyze that duel, because he could have really just taken Maul and Savage right then and there from the start, but a lot of people, including myself, like to believe and theorize that he dragged the battle out for that amount of time, not because Maul and Savage were a competition, but because he's been in politics and just talking about that stuff for a long time. This is the first time he finally gets some action on the battlefront, so it's like he's gonna make it last as long as he can, have a little fun.
And prove a point to Maul after he kills Savage. Another
Oh
spoiler.
yeah, oh yeah.
That was fun.
And then there's also the Yoda arc with Qui-Gon and him and Yoda trying to learn
Oh, the Wills.
the wills. And I remember how that was the direction that George Lucas's sequel trilogy was going to go. Of course, there have been a lot of rumors and speculations of what he was going to do, and so I just base what I know off of what he said personally, instead of like third-party sources, unless they can confirm they talked to him personally and have like proof of it, and so forth. But based on what he said, what he wanted to go forward with, it really sounds fascinating. Like, that is a very mysterious aspect of Star Wars that really has a lot of depth that really can be explored and just expand upon that universe, the wills, and how it ties into the midichlorians. I know over the years the midichlorians have gotten a fair amount of backlash, which, in my personal and humble and honest opinion, I do believe the midichlorians do get a lot more criticism than they deserve. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people say like it ruins the mystery of the Force, and from what I see personally from it, it really doesn't ruin like the aspect and the mystery of how the Force works. It more just says or shows or determines how strong someone in the Force is. Hence
Mm-hmm.
why Anakin's midichlorian count was so high. But it doesn't determine how the Force overall works. If anything, it adds a lot more depth and in truth some more understanding of of the Force, per se, because as like even in the Darth Plagueis novel, it expands upon how Plagueis was trying to manipulate the midichlorians, to create life, to be immortal, and the Force itself did not like that, and in turn, shot back at him with karma by creating Anakin through the Force itself. So in
True.
actuality, and really the midichlorians are, like I said, I don't think they ruin, in my personal opinion, they don't ruin the mysterious aspects of the Force, but instead, just like as I said before, they determine someone's strength in the Force. So to expand upon that aspect and the wills and how those sentient, like godlike, beings, or just how, because I know Lucas said about his sequel outlines how the wills, like control everything, or they oversee how the events of the galaxy unfold, which we did kind of get, I would say, like, we got something similar like that with the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars, with the ones, the father, son, and the daughter, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, the mother from the expanded universe, Abeloth, which that storyline is wild. Like, anyone out there who wants to know about the mother from the Mortis arc, she is crazy, um, but with the Mortis arc and the ones, I do believe like it would be a mixture between that and the Yoda arc that would help that give us the best depth of what Lucas's sequel trilogy would have
Mm-hmm.
explored. And I think he even mentioned how we're basically seeing Star Wars and the whole story play out through the point of view of the wills themselves. And they're the ones who narrate the beginning of each movie of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And the monologue at the beginning, as the credits scroll across the screen, how that's them talking to us and explaining the events of things that are unfolding. And that's really a fascinating aspect of
I never knew
the,
that. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
I think that was in one of his early drafts of A New Hope, how it was called like the will of the Force or something like that.
I
And
believe it was. Yeah.
So to see that unfold on screen and explore that aspect of the Force really does sound fascinating. And I really would have wished, we could have gotten that and just seen what George had intended and how he would have concluded, that overall story. Um, but I think, did I get a little off the question? I think, didn't we start with the Clone Wars arc question?
Yeah, that's cool. It's fascinating stuff, though.
My apologies. I kind of got a little sidetracked there. But back to the Clone Wars question. It's honestly a major tie between a few of them. Another one being the Mortis arc, the Yoda arc, the Ahsoka arc, the Death Watch arc, um, even the Pong Krell arc. As much
Oh, yeah, that's right.
as Star Wars fans can disagree on it on a lot of things, but one thing we can all agree on is our distaste for Pong Krell. But even honestly, even the droid arc, I know that one gets a lot of criticism too, but honestly, I just admire how unique it is, and of course that one was meant to be targeted more towards, kids. Even George himself said that one was his personal favorite arc from the Clone Wars show, which I found to be pretty funny, but of course that's typical George. But really, it's an overall tie between the ones I listed. And overall, because I also see a lot of the unfinished concepts and unfinished arcs that were supposed to be in season 7 and 8 of the Clone Wars that were originally planned under Lucas. And I know some of those got completed under books, novels,
Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Like Dark Disciple, I believe.
Yeah, the Dark Disciple. But and of course I've seen the unfinished like animated stuff that they were able to do before Disney took over. But of course, from the ones that were completed, there was a tie between the ones I did mention, and of course I know I've probably missed a few because there's so many good ones in there. um, but I also am fascinated with what was meant to be, and I always wonder, maybe in the hopes that one day, who knows, maybe we'll see those arcs fully completed. I know that's kind of a stretch, but there's always the thought in the back of my mind, like what they could look like, and that's always such a fascinating part to think about.
Okay, I agree on that. All right, so let's jump into our last couple questions. Rebels or Empire?
Ooh, the Rebels or the Empire? Well, of course, I would probably say I would choose Rebels. It's just thinking about the Empire. It's always such a unique but also frustrating thing to think about, knowing how the Empire rose to power. Not because we all have those characters that that we're meant to hate. We're not supposed to side with the bad guys, but it's a relationship of you love to hate those characters. Like you love to hate
Hmm.
Palpatine or something like that. So so I always found the Empire fascinating because I personally do side with the rebels, the Rebel Alliance, and all that. Especially when we're focusing on the Force Unleashed arc and how the Rebel Alliance was formed in the expanded universe with Starkiller.
True.
That is such a great storyline. But I always, so like I said, I personally do choose the Rebels side, but I always found it fascinating on the Empire side, because of how they rose to power and how, especially kind of tying back to the Clone Wars show, how many times like Order 66 was almost spoiled, like how the countless amount of times the Jedi came close to discovering Order 66. There was the Fives arc, another one of my favorites. There was Fives, Maul, Dooku. They all straight up told like Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Anakin and all those characters. They straight up told them what was going to happen, and yet the Jedi, with their own arrogance and so forth, they just ignored it and feeling like they were the superior ones, thinking they could stop the war before these things happened, or thinking that they weren't real and that their connection to the Force showed them the truth and all that. So it's always fascinating looking at the Empire's perspective, knowing how easy it was for them to rise to the power that they did because of the
Hmm.
Jedi's own arrogance. Like they had so many chances to stop it, but yet, but of course, their own arrogance led to their own downfall. The only real Jedi who really had common sense, in all honesty, if you ask me, was Qui-Gon Jinn. He understood Anakin's power and how it needed to be approached carefully. He knew Anakin needed a father figure, and he treated Anakin, pretty much almost like a son, and showed great care with him. But once Qui-Gon died and was out of the picture, you saw just how poorly the Jedi treated him. They didn't believe him in being the chosen one. I even think it's confirmed that Mace Windu was jealous of Anakin, which is why he was always so bitter, because Mace wanted to believe he himself was the chosen one instead of Anakin. So it was really comes down to the Jedi's arrogance and own egos that led to their downfall, when in actuality they could have stopped their end so many times, or their downfall. So like I said, looking back at the Empire, it's really fascinating and interesting to view it from that perspective, seeing how easily it could have been avoided, yet it wasn't. But even still, going into the expanded universe stories, I know I keep bringing up the EU. I'll just condense to the EU. I know I keep referring back to it. There's just so many stories I love mentioning. So there was a lot of things happening in the Empire and the EU that really add to the lore of just the overall Empire. Like Mara Jade, and how she was the Emperor's hand, and she did a lot of his secret work and all that stuff. That was such a good part of the Empire, including Mara Jade's arc. And just there's actually so like I said, over the past year or so, I've gotten more into the expanded universe. Credit to Ryan from RK Outpost on YouTube. He's the guy who knows expanded universe novels back and like the back of his hand. He knows his stuff. So I go to him for questions. Where to start on certain novels and arcs. So he recommended to me the Thrawn trilogy, which takes place, I believe, 5 years after Return of the Jedi. That's where you get introduced to Mara Jade, and all that stuff. And I don't really think this is a spoiler, but just in case for those who haven't read it yet, which I do recommend it, minor spoiler about Mara Jade, it really adds more depth to Return of the Jedi in terms of the part with Jabba's palace. Because when Luke went there to confront Jabba and had to face off against the Rancor, a part of the book that goes into detail about that was how secretly Mara was there when Luke was there as well. Like when Luke entered the palace, she was there somewhere in the background, disguised as a dancer who was sent by the Emperor to kill Luke. And Luke even had a vision in the novels, because she was also supposed to go on the sail barge under Jabba's permission, but he wouldn't allow her. So she had to stay behind while Luke and freed Han and all that stuff. But a vision showed by Luke reveals that if Mara had been on the sail barge there, she would have killed him and fulfilled the Emperor's request, which was a really in-depth thing to add to that scene and just overall aspect in that movie. Which now that whenever I watch it again, I just look at that scene there and just think, wow, it's really cool to think somewhere in the background Mara is supposed to be there, and just how close she was to Luke and all that stuff. It's really so. The EU does add a lot of depth to the Empire, especially some of the projects that Vader was working on personally. He was trying to create force-sensitive stormtroopers, and a lot of deadly creatures and viruses and plagues that they were working on. Almost zombie-like aspect stories and arcs, and of course the famous Starkiller and the Secret Apprentice arc. So I know I keep getting sidetracked here, and my apologies. I just, love these aspects of Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely.
So I know I personally, in my own morals, I do choose the Rebel Alliance if I had to choose which side to fight for. But I will say, I do think the Empire has a lot more depth to explore and a lot more cooler arcs and aspects to see, to just explore what they were doing and what they are, basically.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It sounds like you're talking more about the Empire than nothing cool about the Rebels, but all this cool depth to the Empire.
Yeah.
So totally agree on that. All right, so I think that's actually gonna wrap it up for the questions, and I do appreciate you coming on and telling us your story.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was an honor.
All right, guys, our next guest is Victoria, hailing in from Seattle.
Hello.
All right, so we really want to get to know you. We really enjoy our fans, and I'm a fan myself, and so I know everybody has their start in Star Wars, things that kind of really drew them into it, and how it's kind of impacted people's lives, and it's become such a big community that I think it's really kind of important to kind of pull fans in and kind of get a whole overview.
Yeah, for sure.
I love hearing everybody's stories, especially when I go to Star Wars Celebration. You can walk up to any fan and everybody's like, "Oh, I love the prequels. Oh, I love the sequels. I love this part. I love this part." And everybody has such a different view of Star Wars and different things that brought them in.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I'm going to ask you some questions and answer them as honestly as you can. So.
It sounds like I have like things to hide about Star Wars, you know.
Well, no, I know some people like I I interviewed one guy. He was a big sequel hater, and he was trying to hold back. Like I'm like, just tell your dudes. I'm like, you don't have to really go into the sequels, or you don't really have to go into the things you don't like about Star Wars. But this is more like the positive stuff, the things that are important to you.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right. So my question is, what drew you into Star Wars?
Great question. I don't 100% remember. So I was a kid. I was like 7 or 8 when the originals were re-released in theaters. So if I remember correctly, I think my parents took me to see the first one um, in theaters. But afterwards, I remember like we lived on a dirt road, like a gravel road. So I would like
Okay.
draw a big circle in the gravel and then pretend it was the Death Star and like throw things at it.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I was a
That's pretty
lonely,
fun.
I was a lonely child.
Fair
but
enough.
it was just always kind of there in the background of especially my childhood. um it was just always there, and I remember being so excited for when the prequels came out. The episode 3 came out in my when I was in 7th grade, and I had it in my planner, and it was like marked off and like big heart, and I was so
Oh, that's so
excited.
cool.
And like all my desktop backgrounds had some sort of like Obi-Wan in it.
I think
So
everybody's an Obi-Wan simp, so no
yeah.
shame, no
Oh,
shame.
for sure. Well, somebody on Twitter actually recently posted like a thread of all the early 2000 like Obi-Wan um wallpapers, and I'm like,
Oh, okay.
I've had about 90% of these on my computer at one time or another.
Well done. Well done.
So I felt very proud. But yeah, it's one of those things that's always kind of it's followed me, and it's come in and out of relevance for my life too. Like there's definitely been points where I was not as into it as I am now. Definitely this period of my life is where I'm the most in love with Star Wars. So, but it's just, yeah, it's just been one of those things that I can't tell you specifically like a certain memory that I'm like, I remember going into theater and sitting down and watching it. My first memory is just like creating that circle in my driveway and like throwing rocks at it because it was the Death Star and it needed to be exploded. So,
Fair enough. So you relived that trench scene. You were the
oh,
hero.
oh, 100, always, always.
Oh, that's really awesome. Um, Kind of reminds me of me and my cousins when we were little. We'd just pick up sticks and we'd sit there and run around our yards doing lightsaber. I never really jumped into the whole like, big aspect of destroying the Death Star, but I was pretending to be a Jedi, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure, always.
So I'm assuming your favorite character is Obi-Wan.
Yeah, from the films, 100% Obi-Wan.
Okay, perfect.
I'm so excited for the TV show. I'm I can't wait. I can't
That's right,
wait
it's
for
coming up.
it. Yeah, May 27th because they pushed it back 2 days.
That's right. And that's going to be happening during Celebration. So I'm going to be at Celebration. So
Oh,
hopefully I can find time to get. I mean, I'm going to make time to watch it. Let's just put it that way. It's good.
I'm pretty sure
But I'm
if
probably
you
going to be
just
tired.
I'm pretty sure if you walk around, you're gonna find a couple people who are watching it because that's not something that's gonna be like people are gonna actively try and miss. Though that'd be cool if
No,
they
not at
did.
all.
That would be cool if they did like a watch party though there.
I think we were trying to set something up when we go there.
Yeah, that would be a really cool idea. That would be so much fun to watch. To watch
Oh, yeah.
that the first 2 episodes with like a whole bunch of fans. Oh, that would be so cool. You should do that.
I think that's kind of why they pushed it back to May 27th, is because the new celebration was going to happen. I think they wanted to give that like experience to people,
Oh, for sure, for sure.
even if it wasn't. I'm kind of hoping that's the reason.
Okay, my fingers crossed.
Yeah, seriously. All right. So, which one is your favorite movie?
Oh, that's like asking me which one's my favorite child or my favorite cat. Oh my god. I see. I like all of them for so many different reasons, and it's
Okay.
just really hard for me to pinpoint. I think I will.
Which one
I
is the one
think
you've seen the most? Let's put it that way. Which one have you seen the most?
the Phantom Menace.
Okay. All right. There we go. So I think we pinpointed your favorite.
Yeah. I, I I was just about to say like the Phantom Menace is my comfort movie 100%. If I'm like not feeling well or if I had a bad day or whatever, and or I just want, even if I just want something in the background, it's like, oh, I'll just put on the Phantom Menace. It's not like I haven't seen it 1,000 times already.
I think you will relate to a lot of fans. I think every fan is like that.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know, there's something about it that, I mean, it's not a good movie, let's be honest, but it it really brought us into like that fantastic world of the old Republic and what
Oh
it
yeah.
was like at the height of the Jedi and the Republic and all of that. And that's just, for me, that's just really fun. And to see, especially to see like one of my favorite characters as, you know, at someone in their 20s still learning and growing.
Hmm.
It was just a cool introduction to all these characters, and it really opened up the universe a lot. So I
Oh,
think that's what,
100%.
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I liked it so much. And also too, you can't, the pod racing scene, like that was also just, that's solid work right there. Solid
Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
solid, just that's a great scene. So you can't go wrong with a pod racing scene. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I do agree. It's like the best movie, but I think like one of the word that I can really describe that movie is it's just fun.
yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I know I'm gonna go in every time I watch it. I mean, the ending is heartbreaking all the time, but
Yeah, get Darth Maul getting cut in half.
no.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, for some people, yeah, I can see where they would be upset because Maul turned into a fabulous, wonderfully developed character, but yeah, it's just, you're gonna go in and you're like, I know I'm gonna have a good time with this movie. It doesn't matter like the PowerPoint presentation transitions, like it doesn't matter what it is. You're just gonna go in and have fun with it.
Hmm. So you mentioned that. So as a kid, you got into Star Wars, but now you're more into Star Wars.
Yeah.
So what keeps you invested? Is it just all the content that's coming out, or is there like a specific thing?
Um, I think the content has a lot to play into it. But I so I was I'm a nurse, and
Oh, okay, very cool.
yeah, so when COVID first hit, it was just very weird when COVID hit because like everything shut down and I was still going into work. My unit turned into a COVID unit basically,
Okay.
and it was so depressing. It
Hmm.
just, every night was like, I worked nights too, which didn't help, but every night I went into work, it was just like, it was heartbreaking. You go in and probably take care of patients who you knew at the end of the day, no matter what you did,
Hmm.
that you're going to die. Um, so it was very hard. So when I had days off, especially if I like worked a day, was off a day, worked a day, I stayed up at night on my day off, and to kind of pass the time, I would put on Star Wars. I just put on Star Wars, and then I don't remember when Disney Plus came out, but when Plus came out, I was like, I've always wanted to watch Rebels, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this time to watch Rebels, and I fell in love with Rebels. Like, it's such an underrated TV show. It's such an underrated Star Wars. You know, it's just
Absolutely.
It's so
I agree.
yeah, it's so underrated. But I fell in love with the characters, and then the show gave me a way to escape my reality for however long I decided to binge watch it that night.
Right. Absolutely.
And that was just with Star Wars in general. Like, it gave me this escape that I didn't necessarily have because everywhere I went and everything I did involved COVID, and
Right.
Star Wars didn't. So I really grabbed onto it. I remember watching Clone Wars season 7, the finale, and just bawling, just sitting curled up in my chair, just bawling.
Oh, I know. That was such a hard ending.
It was such a hard ending, but it was like, in a way, it was weirdly cathartic because it allowed me to grieve and process things that I had been dealing with on the outside, but I was doing it with characters that I knew and, like, weirdly, had a relationship with in a strange way,
Yeah, so it was a little bit of an outlet for you.
100%. And I mean, the content they're putting out has been just incredible. They've been doing a really, really good job. I mean, obviously there's some issues, but overall, I've just been so happy to get more Star Wars, more of that universe. Like, there's so much more to Star Wars than just like the Jedi and the Rebellion and the Republic. So it's been really just a fun experience as a fan to be in this time period where, say what you want about Disney, but they're allowing Dave Filoni to do what he wants to do with the franchise, and that's been really nice. So,
and not to mention Jon Favreau, he's
that too.
I'm liking what he's doing too.
Yeah, well, I'm mad at Jon Favreau for other things right now. So,
Oh,
I've been
fair
watching
enough.
I've been watching Moon Knight, and that's been horrible.
Yeah, that one hasn't really drawn me in as much as some of the other Marvel stuff, and it's really sad. But Oscar
Yeah.
Isaac is doing a stellar job with the character, though.
Oh, if he doesn't win an award, I'm gonna sue. I don't know who
Seriously.
else, but I'm going to sue.
So I don't know what it is about Star Wars actors and playing different multiple personalities. James Arnold Taylor,
Oh yeah.
D. Bradley Baker, everybody. It's fun.
Some just incredible talent, and I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
that's one thing that I think Star Wars gets poo-pooed on, is like, it brings in some amazing talent. Like, they bring in incredible voice actors, incredible actors, incredible directors, but sometimes it's just like shoved to the side because it's Star Wars. So it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating because you see some really great acting, and just great cinematography, and it just goes very unappreciated just because of its genre, and that it's just Star Wars though. It's like, well, like Rogue One, that was a pretty, like, come on. You're telling me
Yeah,
that wasn't Oscar worthy on some aspects?
I would have to say the cinematography and the the scores that they did for that was actually pretty engaging for the film.
Oh, Rogue One. It's one of those films that it's one of the only Star Wars films that I can't go back and rewatch just because the ending is so heartbreaking. I have to, like, when they get on the planet, I'm like, all right, self-care, turn off the TV. I can't
Fair
watch
enough,
the
fair
end of
enough.
this. I can't watch the end of this. This is so depressing.
I know where this is going. I don't feel like being depressed today, so toss it to the
Exactly.
side. Fair enough.
Exactly.
All right, guys, our next guest is all right, so you said you were seeing Clone Wars. What's your favorite Clone Wars arc? You can do like a couple. I know that's a very like wide selection.
That is.
But just think of the ones that just popped straight into your head though.
The Mandalorian, like any Mandalorian arc, is some of
Okay.
my favorite stuff. I really enjoy Mandalorians. I'm actually, another one that I really like is with what's his butt's name? That dumb Jedi who's a jerk. Prog-Hell.
Oh, Prokel. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. He's like turning them against each other and stuff. That's a really, really good arc.
Oh yeah.
Just especially with the clones.
hmm
But another one I really enjoy is the Zillow monster or the Zillow creature.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm actually rewatching it right now because I'm rewatching the Clone Wars as I do treadmill runs. It's the only way I can convince myself to go on the treadmill. Um, but
Fair enough.
we I watched it the first episode today, and then the second one I'm like halfway through it right now. But
Okay.
it's such an interesting arc. I mean, it's only 2 episodes, but it I think it brings up a lot of good questions on how you treat people or creatures that are different than you and that you don't know. And
Yeah.
just the whole way the Zillow monster just latches on to Palpatine and like knows that he's evil, and when
hmm
he escapes, his whole goal is to go and get Palpatine. And I don't know, I've just was always really drawn to it. It's just a very interesting commentary on
hmm
the treatment of animals, the treatment of how we treat other beings, especially beings we don't understand, how we if we find something that can be useful to us, that there's no like question on whether or not is it ethically correct or anything. So
Right.
I find that arc I find that arc very just thought provoking. So it's another reason why it's kind of my slow. I also enjoy a fact a giant monster is running around Coruscant trying to eat Palpatine, so that's fun.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that's a cool take on it. I've You're actually probably the first person that I've talked to that's ever talked about that whole arc.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's just it's not really one that makes I don't think it really makes that big of a headway in the sense of like it doesn't really leave an impression on you, but if you really like, sit down and think about it, it's and just the foreshadowing with Palpatine, I think that's what gets me too, is it's such a focused episode on like this creature knows that Palpatine is evil and
yeah,
will destroy Coruscant to prove his point.
fair enough. Fair enough. Um, all right. So here's another one:
Okay.
Rebels or Empire?
Rebels. No
All right.
questions. No question.
Yeah, you just like blowing up that Death Star.
100%. 100%.
Uh, Jedi or Sith?
Jedi.
Okay. All right. What force ability would be like your main ability?
Force ability.
The one
I
you'd master?
Yeah, like you mean like are you thinking like specific force abilities that, like Cal Kestis can like see memories through objects like that?
Yes, stuff those type of abilities, not like your force
Okay,
speed or your jumps and stuff like that.
cool. Because
That's just basic.
that's exactly what I would want to do. Is I would want to be able to have that power of
So
where
be
Cal
able to
Kestis.
connect to your environment.
Yeah, and like see things and be able to kind of see the past through those objects. That would be kind of cool.
Okay, very cool. Resistance or first order? You're probably gonna say resistance based off your
I
previous.
probably. Yeah, I am gonna say resistance. I mean, the First Order was just like a hack job of they just really wanted to be the Empire, but couldn't.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
So
much.
like they were just trying to be the Empire, and they were trying to like really, really emulate that whole Sidious Darth Vader thing, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't do
One
it.
would one would say that they're just an extension of the Empire. Like the Empire never fell; they're just kind of just the remains of it, and then
I mean,
Palpatine
if
tried
you
to
read
finish it.
Yeah, I feel like you get that if I don't know if you've ever read Bloodline.
I did, yes.
I feel like I got that with Bloodline. That when Sidious fell, like the Empire truly never died. Cause like there
They
were still sympathizers, and those sympathizers like lasted into the New Republic and stuff. So that book kind of gave me the feeling it never actually went away.
Yeah, same with I don't know if you read the Aftermath series. They kind of touch upon that as well.
I have not, but it's on my to read list. I'm currently trying to work through the High Republic stuff, but I keep getting distracted with other things.
Yeah, I still need to get into the High Republic as well. I'm kind
It's
of
good.
behind on.
It's good.
That's
I've
what I've
read
been hearing.
yeah, book and a half in, and it's really good. I have the attention span of a goldfish, so sometimes it's hard
Fair enough.
hard for me to like read a full book sometimes. So
All right, so final question,
okay.
and you might have to think about this one.
Oh no.
If you could live in any era of Star Wars, canon or
Ah.
Legends, which would you choose?
Oh. If I could live in any area, younger me would say Jedi with like be a Jedi without question. That
So like Old Republic.
yeah, Old Republic. And now, yeah, I probably would stick with the Old Republic, like the time before the Clone Wars. Probably not during the Clone Wars, but definitely the time before the Clone Wars.
Okay.
That would
So when it's a little bit more
probably
peaceful
yeah.
before Order 66.
Yeah, I would wanted like when Day Order 66 happened, I would be like, all right, I'm done. I'll be out. I'm out. Take
Fair
me
enough.
with you. Take me with you. But yeah, probably the Old Republic is the era I would live in.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Victoria. It's been a pleasure talking with you and
Thank
getting
you
to know
for
more about your story.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for letting me come and tell my story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. So, all right, guys. Our next guest is Dante. He is from Chicago, and it's actually kind of cool. He's actually in Tennessee right now. He's studying cybersecurity. Um, so give a big shout out to Mr. Dante.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
All right, so he's another one of our followers, and just like everybody on here, we're trying to get your guys' story. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what drew you into Star Wars?
What got me into Star Wars?
Yeah.
Ah man, let me tell you, man. I was born in 2003, the era of the PlayStation 2. So
Okay.
I was always a big gamer when I was younger. Heck, I still am now. I still had the PlayStation 2, the Wii. But what really got me one day was my brother bought home this brand new game. And I wasn't always into it, but when he first brought it home, I was like, this looks interesting. Let's give it a shot. And that game was Star Wars Battlefront 2, the 2005 version. And boy, let me tell you, that game got me hooked into Star Wars. Now, it took a while because, at first we were playing other games like, let me think, Pac-Man Racing, Dragon
Okay.
Ball Z, Budokai Tenkaichi. But man, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was the game for me, man. It got me into the Republic era, the Galactic Civil War, everything, man. That's what really got me into Star Wars.
Oh man, I remember playing that game. I think I did everything I could in that game, and I never got bored. I used to be like a master of what was it, the space battles right before you entered the.
Oh boy. Don't even get me started. For me, it was always playing on Camino. In fact, I had that game for so long, I ended up getting all of the badges and special rifles. So, like, whenever I just started off on the game, I would just press R2 and it switched to the elite rifle.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's so cool. All right. So, what was the first film you saw? So, you mentioned that Battlefront 2 got you into it. So, jumping in from that, what was
What
the
was the
first film
first
that you saw
movie?
from it? Yeah.
The
Which one did you
first
start
movie,
with?
I started off with Revenge of the Sith.
Okay. Ooh, that's an interesting place to jump into, but
Yes, it is. I loved Revenge of the Sith. So, like, because I was younger and I was always playing Star Wars, BF2, I saw a
yeah.
lot of the clones. So I was always interested. I was like, man, where did these clones come from? Why are they so cool? And I want more backstory. So
Okay.
I got into Revenge of the Sith, and that's where my brother first showed me. It was like, this is where you're gonna see all the clones, where a lot of the action. It got me into the 501st and the 212th Attack Battalion. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I just started working my way backwards. So after Revenge of the Sith, I then started with it was the first one. It was A New Hope. And I was like, okay, this is the graphics on this suck, but I like the story. So then after that, I just started in succinct order.
Okay, very cool. And then, so I'm assuming you went back to Revenge of the Sith in the proper order then. I'm sure
Yep.
you jumped into that again. Yeah, very cool. So I imagine since you were big into the prequels, you probably watched a lot of the Clone Wars as well, right?
I've watched all of the Clone Wars, man. Like I do it like just every 2 months. I just have to go back and be like, it's time for my annual rewatching of all of these shows.
Dude, I know. I really want to get back into Clone Wars. I've seen all of them, loved them. I've seen them multiple times.
It was honestly hard not to watch it.
It really is. Actually, one of our co-hosts, if you jump back into some of our podcasts, him and his brother had never seen Clone Wars.
Oh,
And so I kept pushing. I'm like, dude, you've seen all the movies. You love Star Wars. You're so involved. I'm like, jump into Clone Wars. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And so him and his brother finally sat down and got into it. They watched all of them, I want to say within 2 months. He just texted me the other day and he's like, this was a really good series. I was like, dude, I told you.
I don't know how you could not love it. Like every character was so well written, and like even if you started off disliking them, eventually you just grew up with them. Because honestly, Star Wars, the Clone Wars, was just a show you grew up with.
Yeah, I can say the same for me. Yeah, because like for I've said it several times on the podcast. Ahsoka is probably one of my least favorite characters, but I grew up with her and she grew on me, and she's now one of my favorite.
It was hard for her not to grow on you because you saw her make so many character changes for the better.
Yeah.
She matured. She still had flaws, but she grew, as any character is supposed to do.
Exactly. So they really did well with the character development, I thought, with her. And so I think that's one of the things I liked about just the Clone Wars in general, because I used to not be a prequel fan, but because of the Clone Wars, it fleshed out a lot of the story. It kind of built more character, even on Anakin, Obi-Wan, and a lot of the other Jedi in the series. But now, now that I go back into the prequels, I have all the knowledge of the Clone Wars. So I'm like, okay, these characters are a lot different in my mind than when I first saw them the first time.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
So have you seen Rebels at all?
I've seen Rebels. Yeah, I finished Rebels. I had to
Okay,
because
very cool.
I let me think. When I first saw Rebels, I was excited because I was like, if Disney owns Star Wars, maybe this won't be great, but as a fan, I have to at least give it a shot. And
Yeah.
the first season, I was like, this ain't bad. I was like, this is not horrible. It's not what I prefer, but it's something to hold me over. And then, because when they started teasing the Return of the Clones, that already had me hooked. I was like, oh, okay, that makes it so much better.
Yeah, I know a lot of people had a lot of issues with the animation style, and I know a lot of people still have issues with the lightsaber toothpicks. But
Let me tell you why it doesn't bother me. Because
it doesn't
every
bother me at all either,
animation studio has to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I mean, sure. I mean, if we remember the original Star Wars, The Clone Wars, with created by Genndy Tartakovsky, I didn't like that one when I first looked at it.
The
I mean,
Samurai Jack one, yeah.
Yeah, well, like, it's not horrible, but it made up for it with the action and with the plot.
Yeah,
and I mean,
absolutely.
Every studio has to do their own thing, so I wasn't tripping on it. Because, I mean, I would prefer the fast-paced, highly acrobatic fights they had in Rebels than the ones they were having in A New Hope and such.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sure, you have to lose something, but look at what you got in return.
Yeah, and I would kind of argue on the same side as you with that, as we see with Star Wars Visions. We have all these different studios doing their own thing with it, and so you got to appreciate their their vision and their art style to really bring something that's going to flesh out a great story.
I have not finished Star Wars Visions. I will be 100% honest with you. I have not finished that.
It started off strong. It's probably there's a few that I'm kind of like, but I appreciate like their creativity on it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it, but you know, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
I would like to see more of the very first one though, to be
Oh
honest.
yeah, the samurai type Jedi, he was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen some companies do some, I think, what do you call it, little statues of those characters. I'm tempted to buy some.
Yeah, I had no problem. I was like, that's really cool. Like everything, I liked what he was spitting out, and then to find out he was some sort of Sith, I was like, that's very interesting.
Very unique.
Yeah,
Something you wouldn't see normally.
no,
So it's kind of cool.
because
That's
like it
actually kind of
showed
why I'm
that not
excited for
all
the
Sith
Acolyte.
were just about killing women and children. You know, this one had passion, but for a good reason.
Kind of more like a gray Jedi. I know it's not canon, but that's kind
Yeah,
of how I viewed him.
from what I
Chaotic
remember, he
neutral.
seemed to be a merciful type of guy
Hmm.
towards civilians.
Absolutely. Let's see. So, what keeps you invested in Star Wars?
What keeps me invested in Star Wars?
Hmm. Like, what keeps you in it?
What keeps me? I have to think about that. Why? I don't know. I don't know why I stick with it. I mean, I just enjoyed it. You know, I feel like I don't want to
That's
say
your
it's like
answer.
a childhood friend, but it's just something I started walking with. You know, so I mean, I have a
Okay.
big Republic flag hanging in my room right now, but it sticks with me. You know, it's something I've always appreciated. My friends and I have always talked about it together. And I mean, I've got a I've got a crazy story about how I tried to ask a girl about it, but just things like
Who do you
that
got, tell me?
keeps me interested, you know?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's very unique. It's kind of like it's like breathing. It's just part of you. And
Yeah.
so, I totally get. That's kind of how I am.
I mean,
Um,
like the comics were cool. I remember a couple of comics were about Tatooine and the maybe it was Tatooine about the three sons. Like
oh yeah,
yeah, like
I do
these
remember that one.
native people were tricked by Darth Maul into like starting a fight with the clones. And
Hmm.
it was really cool. So I mean, just things like that. Those always kept me interested in middle school. I was reading those in the middle of class, and
Nice.
it was always just something something small that would keep my attention. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I kind of did the same thing. Made school less boring, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like having friends to talk about it with, like just discussing theories, things that should have happened, things that shouldn't have happened. That's what's always just been in my mind.
Oh, absolutely. So, I think you mentioned earlier. So, Revenge of the Sith is your favorite movie.
Revenge of the Sith is not my favorite. Let me think.
Ooh, okay. So, which one's your favorite?
I've got three options.
Okay.
I have to think about it every now and then because for me, it's Attack of the Clones, um, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie,
Oh,
or
interesting.
Rogue
Okay.
One, or Rogue One.
Okay. Fair enough.
Those are my three.
Interesting.
And
I
I
think you're
mean,
one of the very first people that's ever added the Clone Wars movie into their favorites.
I mean, without it, I don't think we would have got the second Clone Wars. So I mean, it's kind of almost underrated. It's underappreciated for what it did in the future.
Oh, I absolutely agree on that one. It is definitely underappreciated.
But yeah, so
So,
those are my tops.
all right, those are some good picks. Uh, so which which side do you usually see yourself on, Rebels or Empire?
I am neither. I'm actually more of a Republican.
Okay.
No, I really do like the Galactic Republic. I like what they stand for. So I mean, but I suppose if I had to pick between Rebellion or Empire, I'd go Rebellion.
Okay. So I should probably just really ask you, Separatist or Galactic Republic?
Galactic Republic, all the way, all the way. Like they were the coolest. I don't even know how to explain it to you. But my brother and I,
Oh
we
no,
always
those
had
clones were
these.
super cool.
Huh?
I said, oh yeah, the clones are super cool. They're
They
probably one
are.
of my
Yeah.
favorite designs of armor.
It really is. Like, I've done so much research into between phase 1 or phase 2 armor. That's how I
I was
had
gonna ask you which one's your favorite phase.
definitely phase 2.
Okay.
Like no, I like no way, shape, or form would I rather have phase 2 over phase 1, or the other way around. I definitely prefer phase 2. I know the clones said that they always thought phase 1 was more protective, but I'd rather go out looking cool than stay alive looking weak.
I mean, like, to be honest, from all the films and all the content that we've seen, that armor does not really protect you from anything. So it doesn't. So I'd rather go out looking cool too, because either way, I'm gonna get shot and killed if I get hit.
I'll just
You know?
deal with it. Tell my
Yeah,
friends I look cool.
exactly. Um, so if you had force abilities for a day, what would you do?
What would I do? Force abilities for a day. That's I've never thought about that because I've never really been more of a Jedi liker. So let me think. Um, Force abilities for a day. I'd have to go ahead and I'd be a hero for a day.
Okay.
I'd be just go ahead and put my best foot forward into being a hero. So I'd stop crimes. I'd mind trick people into doing the right thing. I'd try to solve the world economy, things like that, in one day, 24 hours.
Okay. All right. So you'd be an Anakin, force people to make good choices.
I don't know about Anakin.
I don't know. I think that's kind of Anakin's view, is like forcing people to do the right thing. And
I guess, but he went about it a whole nother way.
oh, absolutely, he went full on dark side on that one.
You had to pull out the Young One Slayer now in Dalvin.
Just a little bit. Right. So here's another question for you. So I think I kind of already know the answer to this one.
Go ahead.
But I'm just gonna throw it out there so you can kind of talk a little bit about it. So if you could live in any era of the Star Wars universe, canon or legends, which would you choose?
Canon or Legends, any era. Dang. Yeah, I think we all know. Go ahead and put me into the Galactic Republic era.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I can't even think about another era I'd like to be in. I mean, like, because I honestly, I feel like I would have go ahead and assassinated Palpatine. I'm like, there's no way. This guy looks too fresh all the time. Something's wrong. Something's on the off with him. This man's a sus guy.
From the very start, which is funny.
I was like, man,
And
like they never even they didn't even tell us what happened to Chancellor Valorum. You know what I mean?
oh, you're right. He just got tossed out of office and then see ya.
Yeah, like I think just maybe Quinlan Voss might have assassinated him, but I'm not sure.
Interesting. I'll have to do some research on that one, and I'll have
Yeah.
to put some trivia on that. So if you lived in that era, would you be a Jedi? Would you be a Sith, or would you just be a mercenary?
I'd probably go for the mercenary role.
Okay.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the Jedi. I like what they were putting out, but knowing what they got, I'd stick with the mercenary side. I'd be more like a Brick when he was training the clones.
Oh, okay.
So I might fight a few battles. I'd be a Republic leaning mercenary.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So it seems like you know a lot about the Clone Wars. Like you're even throwing in names of characters that I'm sure most fans probably don't even. They're probably like, "Who's that Brick character?" Um, but like you said, he was at the training facility with Luminara, overseeing the
Yeah,
clowns' production.
I think it
So
was Shakti. Yeah, it was him,
oh,
Shakti,
Shakti,
and
yep,
one
that's right,
other guy.
Shakti, not Luminar. My bad. I was close. Uh, so
I'd be considered racist there.
so when you look at all the Clone Wars, which would be your favorite arc, if you have one?
My favorite arc?
Yeah, if you were to put in Clone Wars right now, would you just pick any random season, any random episode, or would you have like a specific one that you'd like? Oh, I gotta watch this one right now.
That's a good question, man, because there were so many good battles,
Absolutely.
so many interesting spots to fight in. So of course there's always the Umbara arc, like people being like,
Oh yeah.
would we have recognized Krell was a traitor? Or maybe you could go to the second battle of Geonosis with
Mhm.
Kiadi Mundi and everybody. But if I had to pick, I think I'd want to be on the last end of the Clone Wars, the last fighting phase, like Siege of Mandalore, maybe
Ooh.
going to the Battle of Utapau, because I would
Okay.
like to know if I was a clone, would I end up betraying them? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, I feel you.
still, we don't know what causes the clones to betray everybody. Like, sure, of course, we've got the inhibitor chip, but we've seen some clones just refuse to follow that order, and I want to know why. And I'd like to know, would I betray the Jedi? Or would I hang tough?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Kind of like what we see in Bad Batch
Yeah, with
with her.
Commander Hauser, and
Yeah.
even he convinced a couple of his troops to throw down his guns. So it begs me to wonder: was there a Jedi commander with him, or was he just doing his own thing, or did he not get the command? And if so, why would his troops still betray those who they were protecting?
Right. And I think when we covered the Bad Batch, one of my theories was that overall the name Bad Batch isn't just about um, Clone Force 99, because you see all these different clones, and you got to. I kind of think of the Bad Batch as like the Bad Batch of clones where the chips didn't like fully function, and I kind of throw Hauser and some of the ones that he convinced under that category.
It'd be interesting because
Hmm.
they were saying earlier in the series that they had to stretch the DNA of Jango Fett. So of course there would have to be a couple of genetic defects.
Oh, absolutely. Which is like the main focus of them trying to get Omega back.
Yeah,
So very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. Love getting to hear your background of Star Wars, because I don't think a lot of fans really get a chance to really express themselves. So we're glad we're able to give you guys this opportunity in order to be able to learn more about you guys and interact with you guys more.
that's
Hopefully we can do this more in the future as well.
that sounds great.